Good evening. My name is Dan. I'm an alcoholic. And congratulations to everyone that picked up a medallion tonight. Chris, my beautiful wife. Just in case anyone didn't know, that's my wife. She didn't say anything about me. But I am the husband. I have the kids. So. And Dre, wow. Mike. I think that's the most I've ever heard you speak the entire 2 years that I've known you, so that was cool. But Dre, man, I remember when I first, didn't meet Dre, but I would start seeing Dre come around the fourth dimension. He would be in a hoodie and this just raggedy Kansas City Chiefs beanie, and he reminded me of a very small Debo from Next Friday kind of guy, 100 pounds less and I don't know a foot shorter. But you could just tell he was just walking around just mad that he had to be here, man. And to see you where you are today is it's truly a miracle, man. And congratulations to you guys for that. I don't have a lot of time, so I'm just gonna get into this. I'm not gonna spend too much time getting drunk because we're all good at that. So. What I will do is I'll qualify myself a little bit. I'm going to start off at around 15, 16 years old. I was driving for the first time. I had a metallic blue 1992 Camaro RS. And what I used to do, if anybody knows this car, you have to flip down the license plate to be able to get into the trunk, right? And to hand a 16-year-old kid that opportunity of a vehicle to be able to flip down the license plate. This is back in the day when you didn't have to prepay for gas, right? So I would go to the same gas station 5 minutes down the street from my house every single day, and I'd flip down that license plate, and I'd fill up $15, $20 worth of gas real quick, and I'd hang it up, and I'd walk around like I'm getting ready to go in and pay for my gas. And I just hit a real quick U-turn and get in the car and take off. And I did that for 3 weeks straight. All right, so that kind of shows you that mentality that I was living in. Rules really didn't apply to me. I was kind of a little bit different than everybody else. And I remember it was 3 weeks later, I did the same thing. It was like a routine. I'd show up to the same place every week or every day. And I pump my gas and I'm getting ready to leave and I take off and I get down the street. And I'm at a red light, and there's a car behind me, and then I know the guy from the gas station just completely pulls in front of me and just stops. And he gets out of the car and he walks around my car and he flips up the license plate and he writes it down, right? So I'm at this point I'm pretty much done, right? That's it. And so I go get $15, right, from somebody, and I pull back into the gas station and the sheriff's outside, right? And my thought is I'm just going to walk in real quick. I'm going to throw this on the counter and I'm going to leave real fast. And that's what I do. I walk in real fast and I throw it on and I walk out and I got arrested. So that was the first time. First time I had ever had any kind of interaction with a DOC, right? And from that point on for, the next 10, 15 years, I was either on probation, in jail, in treatment, in and out, right? Now the progression of the alcoholism was, I'll tell you, I was thinking about it the other night, man. Up until I got sober, the only thing really consistent in my life was the progression of my alcoholism, right? The paying, the lack of paying bills was not a consistent thing in my life. Relationships were not a consistent thing in my life. Where I lived was not a consistent thing in my life. The only thing that was consistent was the disease. It was always there. No matter what was going on in my life, no matter how many times I got arrested and I got out of jail, told myself it was going to be different this time, the progression was always there. And it never changed. And I remember I was 19 years old. 18, 19 years old, I got arrested again, and they sent me to a 18-month long-term program called Operation PAR in Lario, and I was there for 18 months, and I did the kind of the fake it till you make it kind of thing, right? I'd show up and I'd put together a great triggers list, and I'd tell all the the one-on-one counselors, exactly what they wanted to hear, right? And I got into so much trouble at that place that I was inches away from doing a 5-year prison sentence. Whatever reason, I ended up getting out of that program, and I was supposed to be on like an aftercare, like probation for like 6 months, right? And the first time that I went to court after that, it was like 3 weeks after I got released from this place, and I walked into the courtroom, and I told the judge that I just got a walk-on scholarship to the University of Santa Fe to play on their basketball team in Gainesville, and I needed to leave Pinellas County and move to Gainesville, and she let me off for probation right then and there. All right, and I don't say this stuff to like kind of like sound cool or sound funny or anything like that, but like that was my mentality. That was the thought process, is that I'm going to manipulate and I'm going to manage my world and people in it to get and fit to exactly what I wanted. All right, and I think from my own experience is that the more this stuff worked for me, the more I could tell myself that this is normal. Right, this is normal. People that I'm hanging out with, people that I'm seeing all the time, they're all doing this stuff like me. I was just a smart one that came up with the idea that I'm going to Santa Fe, and I got off of probation early, right? Shortly after that, I had my first son, Trent. He's 14 now. That's the stepson that Caitlin was talking about. And for anybody, that's normal, that's not like us, that would probably be enough to, tailor it down a little bit and get your life together. And same thing, in and out of jail, in and out of detoxes and treatments. And in about 2018, 2019, I ended up going over to the West Coast to try to get sober. My dad lived over there. My dad at that time was maybe like 18 years sober, and he wanted me to come over there and dry out. He told me, he's like, all you got to do is just come over here, and you can stay at my house, and you can detox and just get off the hard stuff, right? Just come sit by the pool, you'll be good, and then you can go back to your life, right? So girlfriend at the time drives me over there, drives 3.5 hours over there. We get into town. I call my dad. I said, hey, I'm here. I'm about 5 minutes away from the house. He says the doors are locked, and there's a bed waiting for you at the local detox. Right? So I got tricked 12 steps over there, right? And my girlfriend at the time was in on it, right? She knew the entire time, and she didn't tell me. And she refused to take me home, right? And I battled with this woman for 4 years, for four hours in front of the Goodwill parking lot. Tell her, I'm gonna do this different. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna quit my job here. I'm gonna go over here. I won't hang out with these people. And she stayed strong on I'm not taking you home with me. So checked into that detox, and I went into a 6-month program, and this was in like the Cocoa Beach area, and that was my first real experience with like a fellowship, right? And I'd hear all the same thing, get a sponsor, do the steps, help other people, get into a fellowship, and I got most of that down, right? Like I got a sponsor, and I would help other guys that were in the program, and I'd take them to meetings and stuff like that. And like I got graduated from this place, and like everybody, like we went around like the circle, and everybody was saying like, you were the first person that take me to a meeting, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna stay sober for that, like that's what's gonna keep me sober right there. And I went through the steps. I did 1, 2, and 3, and then I'd fire my sponsor, and I get another sponsor, and I'd do 1, 2, and 3, and I did this like 4 or 5 times. And I don't know really what it was at the time. I don't think it was conscious that I was like scared of this big bad 4-step or something like that. But I never wanted to address it, right? So I would just keep switching sponsors and getting started over. About 10 months, sober at that point in time, I relapsed, and it was a really bad relapse. I remember one day I woke up, and I couldn't put a sentence together. Really, is how it worked. I tried to ask my roommate at the time for a cigarette, and it just sounded like right. So little did I know I was having a stroke, right? And drove myself to the hospital, and like any good alcoholic, I made a couple pit stops, right? Because I'm not going to the hospital unless I'm where I need to be, right? And I get to the hospital. And they tell me you're having a stroke, and I'm like, all right, I don't know what that means. And so I stayed in the hospital for like 5 days. The first 4 days, they had like this physical therapist lady coming in, and she was like reading me like these little children's books, like the Big Red Dog Runs, right? She'd have me read it back to her, so I get my speech back. And I ended up going back to that same program that I had just graduated from like 5 months, prior to that. And at this point in time, the lady that ran the place, she had heard about, the relapse and how bad it was. And she's like not playing any games. She's like, you're not leaving ever. Like this is your room. You stay in your room. You come out to eat. Like that's it. And finally, she's like, all right, you can go find a job, right? And I think I found a job. It was like 2 days later after. Like the first time that I had left property, like 2 days later, I ended up having another stroke, right, at the job I was working at. And a buddy of mine that I was in the program with over there, I worked with him, and the same thing happened. It wasn't nothing crazy. I didn't like fall on the ground or anything, but the paramedics came and they stuck me with the IV, and then I ended up having a seizure, right? So they're screaming like, "What is he on? What is he on? What did he take?" Da, da, da. And all I can really all I can gather from this like whole situation going on is my buddy. His name's Booby, and Booby's yelling at the paramedics, he's sober, he's not on anything, da, da, da. And then I blacked out, right? And I ended up back in the hospital, and I ended up having to have emergency brain surgery and open heart surgery within like a week of each other. And it's great, right? Because like I get to the fourth dimension, right? And my brother, who had just presented Dre, he had been here for like a year already. So I'm showing up, and he's telling everybody what's going on. And I think it was like Chris Kelly and like Josh. They had this great idea to give me a nickname, right? To make me feel welcome, right? So they started calling me Two Stroke. Right? Yeah. Get it out. Yeah. All right, so anyhow. They still call me that today. That's cool. That's awesome. Anytime that I have like a blonde moment or something like that, Billy's, my brother, wherever he's at, he's like, dude, all right. So that's what we do. What we do around here. So if you're new, this is what you have to look forward to. Just do something dumb, and you'll get a nickname. But no, I stayed in the hospital for, I think I was 6 weeks. I was on around the clock antibiotics, and I remember I got out in September of 2020, and I got out of the hospital. I moved back to Pinellas County to be closer to my son at the time, right? And I'm living with his grandma, and I remember Billy would call me all the time. He's going to meetings with all these guys, from the fourth dimension. And he's like, hey man, we're gonna go to this meeting out in Dunedin. You should meet us out there. And I'm like, listen, man, I just had like heart surgery and brain surgery. Like I'd be crazy to get loaded again, right? Like I don't need a meeting or sponsor. Like I'm good, man. Like self-knowledge is enough, right? And I think by November, it was Thanksgiving. We went out. My son's mom's side, we all went out camping for Thanksgiving, and it was just like a beer was introduced, and I didn't even think twice. I drank it, and from November to January, I progressed right back to where I was, right before I went into the hospital, right? And that progression, it didn't slow down, it didn't take my time or anything like that. It was just like one beer and then back to what I was doing, right? And I remember Billy asked me to tell this story. It's a good story. I got kicked out of my son's grandma's house, and I asked Billy, you know what I mean? Like I want to do this, this sobriety thing, and I want to get sober, and I want to start going to meetings with you guys out there. I just need a place to crash, right? He's like, you can come stay on the couch. Right, and I'm sure against his own sponsor's advice, he probably went against that, and he allowed me to come live with him. And we were going to meetings, and we were doing all that, and the entire time I'm still getting loaded, though, right? So I don't know if anybody can relate to this. Like I'm living with somebody who is actively in Alcoholics Anonymous, right? Actively going to meetings, actively, doing service work and sponsoring guys and stuff like that. And I'm literally like fake detoxing on his couch, right? Like I'm laying on his couch and oh, it sucks, it's horrible. I got to go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? I'll be right back. And I go to the bathroom and I get right, and I come out of the bathroom, oh, this is horrible, it's the worst thing ever. Right, and so God has a funny way of working, in my life, right? I just, got done, getting some alcohol, right? And I'm walking back from the bus stop, and I was crossing US 19 to get back to Billy's house, and my phone fell out of my pocket. Somebody found it. Ended up getting in contact with my mom. My mom got in contact with Billy. Billy went and picked up the phone after work and went through it, obviously, and found out that I had been lying, right, this entire time. And I don't know, man, if anybody knew, Jeff knows me and Billy from, back when we were getting loaded. And you would think that, like, Billy's on his way home, and I know the jig's up, he knows everything. Like, we're about to fight. Right, we're about to be out in the front yard, backyard, something like that, but we're going to fight. One of us is, if not both of us, is going to jail tonight. And he walked through that door, and he said, come on outside. And I said, all right, we're doing it out back. All right, we're doing this. And I was ready. And he sat me down, and he put 2 cigarettes in front of me, and he said, listen, you can't stay here anymore, but I want to help you get help. All right, I want to get you into a detox or something like that tonight. And I think he made like 2 phone calls, and he got me accepted into a detox. And because I had this surgery, right, I had really good insurance at the time. So like Billy called this person, he's like, hey, I got this guy, he's got this, so-and-so insurance. And they're like, bring him now, right? Bring him right now. Don't wait. So that was God, right? And I went through this place, man, and it was the same situation. It was like I was there, and triggers list, and you release 1,400 nanograms of dopamine into your brain every time you take a drink, and it was all, it was all substantial, man. But I remember I had found a book of Alcoholics Anonymous because I had talked to Billy, on the way out there, and he just reassured me, man. The only way that this is going to work for me is if I really buy into this idea of going to AA. And I found a book, and I opened the book, and it turned to the family afterward. I think it was a page 124. And my eyes just went right to the paragraph that it says, cling to the thought that in God's hands your dark past is your greatest asset. With it, you can avert misery and death for others. And that's always stuck with me, man. And that was my experience coming into AA, man. All of you guys had all of these crazy stories, and you guys, obviously got loaded the same way that I got loaded. You guys felt the same way that I felt, right before you decided to get sober. And you guys are obviously, happy and sober today. And that was attractive, right? Nobody told me that I was an alcoholic. Nobody told me this is what my life would look like. Nobody told me this is what I needed to do. They just said, this is, I'm an alcoholic. This is what my life was like. And this is what I did to get sober. And I linked up with a sponsor really quick. I ended up going to the same halfway house that Billy was at. And me and my sponsor at the time, we got, really, really busy in the work. I think we did the 12 steps in like 30, I don't know, a little over 30 days, maybe 30, 40 days, something like that. And just like Chris said, man, I came into here and I was like, you guys got to fix me. Like, this is all about me. I got to figure out how I can stay sober so that I can put my life back together. And somewhere through that process of going through the 12 steps, I realized very clearly that this has very little to do with me, right? My success in Alcoholics Anonymous and in life in general is how much I'm willing to go and help somebody else. If I'm helping somebody else, I'm not able to think about myself, right? And, so that was, very quickly into my experience in AA. And, I also have 4 years sober. My sobriety date is January 17th of 2021. And over the next 3 years, 4 years of being in Alcoholics Anonymous, this is just following the guys before me, following guys like Kyle, Thomas, Chris, my brother. I was fortunate, that my brother plugged into this group, and I was kind of like grandfathered in, right? And I've had the service commitments here, the setup, and I did the chips and all that good stuff, man. And I remember one of my first meetings, I stood at that door and I shook people's hands as they walked through the door as a greeter. And I remember sitting down when the meeting's getting ready to start. My entire shirt is just completely soaked with sweat. It was just the most uncomfortable thing that I've ever done up until that point in my life. And it's exactly what I needed to do, because I got people seeing my face. I got people seeing, knowing my name. I was able to see other people's faces and recognize their names. And today, right, I have the pleasure of employing a lot of guys like Dre. Everyone that works for me pretty much since the very beginning, aside from Caitlin's older or younger brother, have come from ARC. I remember when Dre, first showed up that day. He came bicycling up, right? And he had 7 fishing poles on the bicycle and this big old backpack and everything. And I was looking, I'm like, this isn't going to work, all right? So I gave him a shot, man, and he worked out really well. And like Dre said, man, every day we get to go to work and we get to sit in this truck, 4 alcoholics in this truck, just talking about recovery all day, every day. We listen to speaker tapes as we're driving, further distances on the way to the dump or to Tampa or something like that. But again, man, I realized that this isn't possible. This opportunity of being able to be of service to other people isn't possible without you guys, right? Showing me how that works, right? And I recently changed sponsors about a year ago. And I remember one of the first conversations that I had with my new sponsor was the opposite of self-centered is God-centered, right? And that really stuck with me, man, because I'm selfish and self-centered at the core, and if I want to be the opposite of that, right, the crux of the problem, if I want to be the opposite of that, then I need to be more in touch with God, and I need to be more in touch with what God's will for my life is. And I believe wholeheartedly that that God wants me out here helping other people, right? We went to this spiritual retreat a couple years ago, and this wild dude, Johnny, was going around the circle. I think it was on 11th step or something like that. And he was going to everybody, and he was asking everybody what they did for work, right? And Chris, I'm a landscaper. Kyle's, I'm a barber. Right? And he gets over to me, and he's like, I'm a tree climber. And that's what I do for work. I'm a tree climber. And he looked at me dead in the eyes, and he's like, you're an agent of God disguised as a tree climber, right? And it's funny, right? That's a wild thing to say to somebody, man. But it's true, right? If I really look at my life today, man, that is the truest thing that I can, I climb trees and I cut trees down for a living, right? So I can pay my bills and, provide my family with a good life and everything like that. But my number one goal on this earth is to be of service to God and to do God's work well. And, a guy like me is not able to pull that off on my own. All right, I need people like you guys. I need places like this to go. I need sponsorship to tell me when I'm being, a little bit retarded and to get outside of myself and help somebody else, man, because that's not my first thought. So I don't know if any of that made sense, but I appreciate it. Congratulations, everyone, again, picking up a chip, and thank you.